What's up everyone, OJ here. Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about Platinum Games and Bayonetta because it seems like 2019 there's going to be a lot of surprises, not only for the studio itself but also the structure of when they finally show off the first gameplay footage of Bayonetta. So let's go ahead and get into what Platinum Games is doing first, and then we'll talk about Bayonetta because I have a lot of thoughts and ideas in terms of what I think about that. But of course what Platinum Games is doing is obviously big news in the industry. So let's start off with some bullet points in terms of what Platinum Games had to say in a recent interview. So Platinum Games is midway through the development of an unannounced title which has, quote, never been done before, according to Inaba. He added, "I know a lot of people say that, but the game we're working on truly is unlike anything else. Even for our varied history of veteran game developers, this is something that has never been designed before. So from a game design perspective, we're very excited right now." Now, Platinum Games is aiming to move towards self-publishing, as it will eventually have the, quote, freedom to own its intellectual properties and make independent decisions on future directions. 2019 will be an incredible important year for us, says Inaba. Without speaking directly to the number of titles that may or may not announce, I can say it's going to be a year of some major new announcements, new challenges, and new methods for us. Basically, we're building a foundation that in later years will pay dividends. For us, new challenges are going to be very important, and I'll talk about what I think he means with that in relation to Bayonetta 3 and other games that they're going to be doing. Platinum Games' new approaches include a move away from relying on external publisher funding, as well as examination of how it structures game design. While Platinum Games has worked with third-party partners in the past on properties it does not own, such as Bayonetta, Nier, and the upcoming Astral Chain, it is currently working on two new intellectual properties owned entirely by the studio, neither of which have been announced. The creation of wholly owned properties will not result in the end of third-party collaborations. Quote, "There are still going to potentially be games in which we partner with publishers to do big things with big IPs, Inaba said. There might be some co-publishing options where we're doing some of it and they're doing some of it to make a larger game, and there might be some situations where we're going to be self-publishing larger games as well." And he also had this to say about Bayonetta 3. Bayonetta 3 will see a change in design process based on Platinum Games' experience on developing Bayonetta 1 and 2. And pretty much this is like the only actual or bit of information that we've received, except the whole we're working on Bayonetta 3 and it's coming along nicely, or it's going along, or whatever the case is. So here's what I think is going on with Platinum Games and what they're doing as a company. Obviously, they want to own their own stuff. They're tired of being completely reliant upon third-party companies, and if something doesn't go down, like if the deal doesn't go through, all of a sudden they're screwed and out of paychecks, right? We saw that with Scalebound. So I do think that Platinum Games is setting up for the future, right? And what is the one thing that you see a lot of these companies, a lot of these third-party companies have that maybe Platinum Games hasn't announced or have? Well, that's their own proprietary engine that they can use across multiple titles in order to optimize game development and in order to get games streamlined into different systems more frequently. And I think that's the biggest issue that we see with Platinum Games sometimes, right? Why some games can fall apart, why some games take way longer than they're supposed to, why some games can be unorganized, is because they don't have that structure and that foundation. And I think that's what he was saying here when it comes to, like, from a design perspective, what they want to do going forward and what they want to do with their company. And I think that maybe having their own engine, the Platinum engine, or whatever the case is, to where a lot of their games can just run on, like a Frostbite or like an Unreal Engine or like any of the ones, Unity, stuff like that, to where they can code and program for it and they can make it and put their games across the board to where they can make a variety of great games with easy tools, is what maybe Platinum Games is going for with their design. Now, when you look at Bayonetta 3, I think this one is very interesting because they talked about the design process based on Platinum Games' experience with developing Bayonetta 1 and Bayonetta 2. I think here is what they want to do, and this is just me taking a shot here with this one. I think they want to get away from how Bayonetta is such a segmented experience, and allow me to explain what I think by that. So in Bayonetta, what you do is that you have chapters, right? And then even from chapters, you have verses. There's a lot of stop and go. There's a lot of, okay, I'm playing, I'm running around this environment in this chapter 1. Okay, now then there's this verse, and then I do that, and the verse is complete, and then I get some type of medal or whatever it is for that. And then that creates, like, if you mess up, that creates a sign of, okay, well, do I need to go back? Okay, I'm going to have to replay this over and over to get the best score. And it's so segmented. You have verse 1, verse 2, verse 3. Oh, I missed verse whatever. I got skipped to verse 6, but there wasn't a verse 1 because I didn't do this one thing. I think it's a very segmented experience that they're maybe trying to move away from because they see that people necessarily aren't buying that anymore. If you look at a lot of the experiences that are doing well here, or especially Japanese games, when you get like publishers to publish some of these bigger ones from Japanese developers like a Sekiro, it's a complete experience. You're in this game world, it's an action game, you can upgrade at certain places, but there isn't the break of the action or the verses or things like that. It's not so split up. I mean, you can have chapters and all that, but it comes up just right on the fly. You don't have to stop and then go to a screen and then go from there, then launch into a game. I think going forward, Platinum Games wants to make it to where Bayonetta is a complete and whole experience from the start. And I mean whole as in like it's not so segmented with the chapters and the verses and all of that. So I think that's the biggest thing that they want to do from a game design change. I think they see that that's not necessarily the most popular type of game design out there. Not that Bayonetta's gameplay is bad or the design choices for Bayonetta is bad when it comes to the actual combat, but the way that you digest Bayonetta, right? The way that it's played, it can lead to a lot of stress or anxiety for some type of players out there. So if you have a Bayonetta game to where you just go into this world and you flow from one place to another place, one area to another, and at the end of the game, it gives you a rating for something, right? Or at the end of the game, you say, okay, this is how you play it. Or if it just pops up on the fly after battles, like, oh, you did this combo and this is how it was. I think that's the type of game design that they might be going for. It looks like games like Nier has taken that, and look at how well Nier did with the open-ended areas, with just being able just to play straight up from there, upgrading everything on the fly. You don't have to worry about stopping, then going to a screen, and then multiple loading screens to go into this and into that. It's just right then and there. So maybe they're trying to design the change of Bayonetta to kind of more fit into what the modern game design is, because you don't see a lot of games still having that type of game design. There still are some, but you don't see a lot of action games kind of doing that. They're doing like the Sekiro thing or the God of War thing, right? Where it's just, hey, you have this big world, you can traverse among it, you can do like the quick travel if you want to, but nothing really breaks up the action in this type of game. And those games have done very well, from Sekiro to God of War to Nier, games that design that type of play to enjoy. So I think that maybe they're trying to go over to that type of game design with Bayonetta, and I think that they can do it. I don't feel the need for Bayonetta to have this verse 1, verse 2, verse 3. I know some people might think that's controversial, but I think what makes Bayonetta great, obviously pure platinums are awesome, but I think that if you build up a combo meter and you get a pure platinum, that can just go to your Halos, and that's just something right there. You earn a pure platinum, you know, based off of this segment of time or whatever the case is. There's smart people over there at the Platinum Game Studios. They can figure out how to put verses straight into the game without breaking the experience or having it feel like, oh, well, I missed one here, or you're meant to experience the full type of thing just by going through the game and not having to find a secret verse or a hidden one going back in a level or something like that. I mean, I think that they can do it, and I feel that it would create a game that's going to be more appealing to a lot more people when you do that, yet you can still keep the flow, the combat, the moves, all of that cool stuff that Bayonetta is known and loved for. You can have all of that by changing the design philosophy of the game and making it more appealing from more of a larger scale standpoint. So I think that that's one of the things that they might be going for, because they're talking about a change in the design process based on their experience with 1 and 2. So they're changing things based on what they saw with the first and second game to something different. That's what it looks like to me, and I think that they could be doing that with the design of the game. Now, what I also like to see with what they're doing, they're talking about this crazy game that's never been done before, and their wholly owned IPs. All of this stuff is great. I think stuff obviously like Astral Chain, to where they work with Nintendo, but Nintendo owns Astral Chain, but where they work with them, that stuff's going to keep on going, and there's no need for Platinum Games to stop that. They're a big indie company, right? They have over 150 people that work there. They've got multiple teams, and they've got great people leading it, but I think that they really need to make sure that they grab hold of what they're trying to do here, because they've been talking about this for a couple of years now with this whole, we're going to have our own IPs, and oh, it's coming, like there's something big coming, but they haven't really announced much in the past few years when it comes down to it. So they need to start executing on some of these things here. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe E3 is going to be the big place where we start hearing about some of these. We haven't heard anything when it comes to the whole Babylon game or whatever the case that is. Obviously, all we've gotten really recently was like Astral Chain, which is awesome, by the way, but I think that we should be getting some updates when it comes to Bayonetta Bayonetta 3. We should be getting some updates maybe on the Babylon game. We should be getting some updates on some of the other stuff that they're working on. They've got 2 wholly owned IPs as well that haven't been announced, so I'm excited for Platinum Games to kind of move into the next chapter of what they want to do and how they're going to grow as a company and everything, because I honestly feel Platinum Games is easily one of the best developers in the world, hands down, when it comes to action games. They know how to craft them. That's why I'm so excited for Astral Chain, because I think a lot of the design philosophies of what they're talking about here maybe even started with a game like Astral Chain, right? One of the newer end games where it just kind of came out of nowhere, and maybe that new design process in terms of what they're trying to do, or that new engine, has already been implemented here with Astral Chain, because we don't know what that's running on or anything like that at this point. I mean, heck, it could be Unreal Engine 4 for all we know, but we don't know what it's running on. But either way, that could be one of the things that's starting out with this new process for them. So I'm excited to see what's going on. I think Bayonetta 3 is going to be absolutely amazing. I'm looking forward to the changes. They rewrote the book when it comes to action games, especially with Bayonetta back in 2009/2010. So I think they can rewrite it again with Astral Chain and games like Bayonetta 3 and whatever else they're working on as well. So what do you guys think about what Platinum Games have to say here? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Go ahead and check out the links in the description below. We got Facebook and Twitter. Go ahead and give us a like and a follow on our social media. Hit that like button if you did like this video. Let me know you guys want more content like this going forward in the future. And subscribe to PlayerEssence for latest RPG, Japanese, and Nintendo gaming news. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.